Over my years as a realtor in Waterloo region, I've had the pleasure of meeting plenty of successful person. Here are some of their stories. Welcome to People Around Town. I'm excited to have Erin Moraghan here. She is with, well, the founder of Litethriive Wellness and also, wow, the CEO of Nutrition for Learning. I found out about Erin through my wife, Jacqueline.
Yes.
Who says you need Erin on the podcast. And at first I was thinking, okay, wow, CEO of Nutrition for Learning. I'm well aware of that. I've been to many a banquet and fundraiser, normally trying to put my ticket the highest up to win the passes to the RBC Canadian Open. Yeah. So there's normally a bid between myself and Mr. Heimpel if you're watching the pod. Actually, I'd love to have you on. But it was about time for me to have an absolute force of nature here. And it's kind of, if you've seen the podcast before, I think you probably have. I've had a little segment, and I hope it's taken properly. But it's somebody that knows they add value in a variety of different segments and doesn't get in their own way and feel boxed in. So some people might call that person a pirate. Some person might call that person a hustler. And I think both are great terms, because if there is gold out there, you know that you can add value in doing so. And this wonderful lady here knows how to add value and then some. Erin, thank you very much for jumping on. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you for the intro.
There we go. Well, it's a truthful intro and then some. So you're not a local to here, but now this is home, correct?
It's very much home, and it took a while for it to feel that way. I grew up both in the west end of Toronto and also just outside of Quebec City. So coming out here was a really interesting culture shift that I wasn't anticipating, and it's taken time to really understand the community.
And now culture shift varying from Toronto to Quebec, because that's a culture shift in and of itself.
Yeah.
And then here, is it a pace, or it's just the way people are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting, coming to Cambridge about 12, 13 years ago, and beginning to build a business and really seeing the way that our communities are energetically really different from anywhere else that I've lived, but also pocketed in so many different ways. I mean, even just within Cambridge, it took me quite a while to figure out, all the little spots and who's who and how folks think about each of their little areas culturally. And so now being part of a nonprofit and serving the entire region, you get that sort of broader lens, and it's a really unique space. We really have that barn-raising energy in so many different ways that I've come to truly love.
So what came first for you? The profit side, the wellness side, or the non-for-profit side?
They all came in the same order.
Wow.
Yeah, so I grew up very connected to movement and had a really challenging teenagehood. And movement and wellness, connection to nature were really anchoring supportive features for me. And so when I first started my career, I was working in all those spaces. I was teaching a little bit of movement. I was working in a nonprofit in Toronto, and I was also being mentored working for an unbelievable event producer in the city at the same time. So I was kind of doing all of those things from the get-go.
Okay, so I didn't even know about this event. Okay, so I had a list of questions. Again, these things just keep thrown away. Okay, so event production too. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, that makes sense because your Nutrition for Learning events are great. Okay, so that mentor, you said mentors. Mm-hmm. Let's get into that a little bit, because I credit so much of my success to different mentors. Feel free to run down, I don't want to say top, but maybe 2 or 3 that come to mind and what you learned from them, and if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, without question, Michael Dolan, who hired me when I must have been 20 years old, I was giving a resume at a local pub where I lived in the city, and he was having lunch with a client, and somehow we got to talking. And I had worked a ton in the hospitality space, and he kind of saw that quality, and he gave me a job instead of the bar that I was applying at, and he ended up being an absolutely path-shifting influence in my life. That was my first real exposure to somebody who was an entrepreneur, but in the spirit of social good.
Okay.
And that completely altered my course. I had never met anybody who brought so much creativity and bravery and kindness to their work before, and it was hugely influential.
And how long did you work alongside of Michael, or with Michael?
Yeah, I worked with Michael for a few years, and we've stayed connected over the years. I started my own event planning company in the city after a number of years working with him. I learned so much. I mean, this was back in the late 90s when event planning budgets were colossal.
Oh.
It was, the era of red carpets and $1 million dinners, and a very different time.
Sure.
And so that's really what led me down the path of social entrepreneurship and building businesses that can make a positive impact in the community, and really, primarily working with other businesses and helping show them how to be impactful, because so many folks want to be impactful and have absolutely no idea how
or where to start,
where to begin. Yeah.
And right now there's a need, if you're going to have an event or whatever, the event, still in the end, what's the goal of the event?
Yeah.
Is the goal outreach? Is the goal to make money? What is the goal, as opposed to let's have an event and then figure it out?
That's how it started for me. Back when I was working, strictly in the event planning space, you would see folks spend six figures flying artists in and having, a special, chef flown in. And I would just think to myself, as a kid growing up who didn't have a lot,
sure,
just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like what if instead of spending $200,000 on that flautist, we spent half of that and then, invited the community to benefit from the other half in some way. And so that's really what shaped my business path, for sure. How can we help, utilize sort of resources and opportunity in different ways?
So yes, having that social mind to help the community, but also having a business background as well. When you work with non-for-profits, I guess how long do you expect it to take before the non-for-profit understands that it's a non-for-profit, fair enough, but we still need money to succeed? Is there like a process you go with, or you just sort of suss them out? Because it is a completely different headspace. I've had the pleasure of working, the pleasure because I've learned from it, working closely with Alzheimer's Society Waterloo Region with their whiskey tasting event, which is now defunct because, there's a tie to Alzheimer's with whiskey, fair enough. But honestly, it drove me nuts how much money we raised, but how the costs were not kept in check whatsoever as chairperson. And it's something that I don't know how it's a different, I would classically say it's a different mindset that works in the non-for-profit, but you're definitely kicking that aside. What's your process of, I guess, retooling or shifting mindsets a little bit within the non-for-profit space?
It's really a beautiful question. I think that, first of all, we have a really unique nonprofit sector here in Waterloo Region, I think, and I've seen a very different culture and way of doing things here than I've experienced in Toronto and Hamilton, where I've primarily worked in the nonprofit space. I think that what I'm excited about is I'm seeing more entrepreneurial folks and folks from a corporate space coming into the nonprofit world, and I think that there's starting to become more of an acceptance that nonprofit or charitable organization doesn't mean that we aren't operating with all the same values that a business should hold as far as accountability and transparency and visionary thinking, right? Are we coming up to the big picture? You know, I call it the penthouse. I say this to my team all the time. You know, let's take an elevator ride up to the penthouse and make sure that we're always looking at the big picture of things. Why are we doing what we're doing?
Correct.
You know, there's so many, I think, charities that oftentimes are, you know, it's challenging sometimes when you're reporting into a board because there's often so many legacy pieces while we're doing this because we've always done it. We've always held this signature event. The community gets attached to things, and it takes bravery to come up to the big picture and say, that's true, we have always done that, and people do love it, but the numbers don't make sense. So I think that you have to be willing as a nonprofit leader to be really okay with the fact that folks aren't going to always love your decisions, but they will ultimately get excited about the elevated impact that you're able to create just by making some of those tough decisions to change.
So some of the old, I guess, staunch legacy mindsets too can become frustrating, to say the least. Which,
you know, what I've found, though, is often when you dig below the layers, you know, I even just consulting with nonprofits, you'll often hear language like, oh, but our board chair is so attached to this, you know, legacy golf tournament or whatever it is. But when you actually talk to that individual, they're really pumped about something different, and they do intuit the staleness, or they also have the same concerns about the margins.
fair.
So it's just about asking questions and meeting people where they are and trying to figure out, yes, this, but also what else. So I think, you know, also coming into things with the mindset that everybody can get excited about newness, right?
And now for that not-for-profit space, there's a lot of, I've seen a lot of legacy events, and it's the same event, and it's the same event, and it's the same event over and over again. And it seems each year they're not getting bigger, they're almost getting smaller.
Yeah.
And you know, the economy is a little bit tighter right now, so everybody's vying for that same dollar. Since you've worked with different organizations and your Rolodex expands, how do you know? Because there's probably a sense of entitlement to certain people and certain organizations for different not-for-profits. But to me, I always say to my team in real estate, look, we don't own people. Right? We offer a service to people, and if there's value in what we do, people will work with us. And I think not-for-profit's the same sort of way. So how do you, without stepping on toes, if it's something that you believe that this family or this organization that you might have met through a different vein would be interested in supporting because it aligns with their values, how do you navigate maybe introducing them to another program?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
I do, and I love that question because I think that Jacqueline and I have talked about this before. I think that authenticity is really important. And I think that when you really take the time to listen to your partners and understand the impact that they want to make, if they want to make an impact over here with your partners that are really, you know, that's going to really fill their cup and bring them, you know, a feeling that is exactly the feeling they deserve to have and that you know will become reciprocal and generate more of the same. Pointing folks in that direction and building those bridges, I just am such a believer that, you know, we all rise when we all rise.
Correct.
And I think that that's how community is strengthened, right? If folks are feeling like you care enough to help them align with where they want to be aligned, that's our job as people. That's our job as community builders. And I love, you know, when folks come to us at Nutrition for Learning and we get to know them and sit down with them and understand. Oftentimes folks want to give because they grew up in a certain way.
Sure.
And they know what it was like to not have what they needed. And if I think that they're better suited to give over here or also over here.
Yeah, in many cases, just also.
I love making those introductions. In fact, it's one of the best things.
So I don't know if you can say pass, but I think you'll say go. Whatever. You're the boss of you. So if you were to say to a board member that said, okay, whoa, now I see that such and such person is now supporting this program, they don't, and I guess giving cycles run around budgets which aren't always year end, right? And they say, well, I see that now so-and-so is supporting this program, and they have that almost possessive attitude about it. What would you say to that person?
Well, I'll talk a lot oftentimes just about values alignment, and I think oftentimes when I first come into a nonprofit, whether it's as a consultant or in this case, as that leadership role, sometimes you have to do a bit of an audit of your partners and ask those same questions. Is this still relevant? Mm-hmm. Is this partnership still relevant? Because it's the same way that we operate, hopefully, as individuals, right? We're not just trying to get something out of people. We're looking for reciprocity. And so, when I came to Nutrition for Learning, there were a number of partners who just, probably were investing in the organization at a time when we were at a different growth phase.
Fair.
Right? And so you shape-shift a little bit because you want to move forward with folks who want to be true reciprocal partners and who are really values aligned and want to be on side your mission for the right reasons.
And would be happy if there was another partner that came on board that might be adding even more than they add. There's not that ego that's involved with saying, no, we're always the title sponsor.
Yeah.
And there cannot be another name ahead of us.
Well, yeah, and I can even think of a partner that, when I initially met with them, really talked about missing the grassrootsiness of the organization, the smallness of the organization, the smallness of our team.
Okay.
And, really started to understand that what made them really excited is startup. Okay. And so I was able to connect them with a brand new charity that was just barely, obtaining their charitable status. And like fireworks went off, and they built such an incredible startup dynamic. And now that partner has come back to us because we made that connection for them, and they feel a little bit more holistically behind the community. And they were able to then draw the line, right, between what our organization does and what some of these teeny weeny, like we're not very big, but what some of these really small organizations do, and that really it's about holistically wrapping youth with all the supports, all the student success and well-being supports that they deserve. It's not our charity versus another. It's like, how do we all just link arms and make sure kids have what they need?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I do love that program. So, okay, I want to get off that program. Probably going to end up coming back because Nutrition for Learning, it just makes so much sense. Just makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
And anyways, who are we? I don't know how somebody can't support that program. Like, why? That kid's not lucky? Like, I don't get it. Okay, so off that for a half second.
Yeah.
When you talk about organizations growing.
Yeah.
Well, your organization, your wellness grows as well. When you look for, they say, I guess, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you go together with a team. When you build a team, both for your wellness program and then also for whatever not-for-profit that you're in, are you looking for the same type of people, or how do the people sort of differ that you look to bring aboard your team? I'm just curious. Like,
such a good question. I mean, I've built and helped to build a number of different national and multinational fitness and yoga and wellness brands. And it just starts with the values.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting when you have the opportunity to build teams and franchisees and that type of thing for a company that you don't own. Right away, you want to make sure that that organization really understands, first of all, what their values are, because most organizations have a set of core values that are really just words on a wall or in a manual,
yes.
right? And so usually the first thing that I do is retool their values. And go through that process with them of building a set of core values, or we'll call it sometimes a compass, that are actual directional values. And really, those values become the checklist for who you're looking for, and they become a phenomenal filter. And then I think, making sure that you're really, hiring or recruiting the right players who are really, really culturally in alignment and can represent those values and really shine them forward. That's never led me astray. I've made tons of hiring blunders.
Sure.
And every single one of them, I can easily go back and say,
the value was off from the get-go.
I saw a flag, but I thought this piece would outshine it. And every single time, it proves to be, those values they're the secret sauce.
It's secret sauce. So when you're jumping into and I'm sorry to go back to nonprofit, but I'm just super curious about this, right?
It's such an interesting space.
Like I understand profit to some degree, non-for-profit. Like, firstly, how do you even get into the space, right? Do you want to get into the space? I guess it starts probably with passion for the cause. I'm guessing. I should hope it does. If it starts by free money, then we got a problem. But if you're jumping into a not-for-profit and you can tell that the people and the culture is off, how do you make that shift? Because there's still HR issues at hand. That's got to be one of the toughest things, because a not-for-profit, which very few of them have a ton of extra money, can afford big payouts for somebody with a bad attitude that's been there for 15 years. How do you try to navigate through that?
Yeah, it's you need a board that is going to be behind you during the process. And you need a board that's aligned on the vision. Where are we going here? Because I think that if no one's calling it what it is, like if it's a season of change, then let's all stack hands and be in the season of change and really understand what our values are and how our values are taking us into the future. And we can't go into the future with that big shiny vision if we don't have the right talent on the team. So for me, I mean, if you'd asked me 20 years ago, I'd have a really different answer. But I think in today's world, with so much social fracturing and, as you say, the economy is tighter, partnerships are more difficult in some ways, not all, but in some ways to find and create. You really, really need a board that is naming the season with you and willing to stay the course and being very, very aligned on what the risk appetite truly is.
Okay.
And it needs to be a strategy, and there needs to be investment as well in professional development. Can we affect change with some of these folks? Because what I've found coming into the nonprofit space with an organization that's in scale-up mode is that oftentimes, nonprofits are not always the best at investing in their talent.
Correct.
Or even calling talent.
Sure.
Right? You don't often even hear that word in this space. And I think that culturally there's this idea that nonprofit folks are martyring themselves and that they should work for less and that they maybe don't need to have the same level of talent because it's all heart. Right?
Opposite.
Couldn't be more opposite, right?
Yeah.
We need real talent. We need folks with real accountability. And so I have found that oftentimes teams have not been invested in. They're not being paid what they're worth. And so when you meet them in that space of, hey, how about some coaching and some resources and some visioning with your role.
True.
Oftentimes people will really elevate and meet you there and be really excited and feel that they have a new trajectory.
So you've seen then, I was about to say, you've seen some good positive change in people that had been, I guess, classically doing it a certain way.
Yeah.
You've seen that. That's got to be so rewarding.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting because it's also, a rewarding career in the nonprofit space is like one of the most beautiful things you could have in your life. To be able to truly wake up every morning and say, I have an amazing team, we're doing impactful work, and I love my work. I mean, that's the magic. That's what we all want, whether we're working in nonprofit or it's the same, right? Even in for-profit work in your space, like you want to wake up in the morning and know I'm showing my family, a beautiful path forward. We're upholding our values. We're being impactful people.
I love it. Okay, so you've been able to see positive change within staff and people that you work with, and I'm sure even board members as well.
Oh, yeah.
But going to like Litethriive Wellness, you probably get to see a lot of change in people there too.
Yeah.
Maybe let me know of a few stories of where you get goosebumps to this day.
Oh, goodness. I go through the filing cabinet of there's thousands probably.
Okay.
So Litethriive was born during the pandemic. My business partner and I had just started, we'd been growing a brand called RevCore, which was a novel fitness studio experience, and we had locations across Canada, and we were scaling up right when COVID hit, and it was just not the right time for us to push through. And so something interesting happened, though, at the same time. Studio fitness, oftentimes, you're working with folks who have means, right? And as the pandemic started to really impact entrepreneurs and other business owners, what I did was, we closed down all of our studios and we took our fitness and wellness offerings online, and that was a fast success. We had, all of a sudden national and even global attendance in those sessions, and it was growing, and it was very much an online community, and it was very, very cool. At the same time, I was consulting for small to medium-sized businesses to help them not just survive the pandemic, but also potentially also make some of the same hard decisions and close.
Okay.
And so it was really an unbelievable time of learning and ensuring also that I was being supported and mentored at the same time as I was mentoring. So Litethriive was interesting in that, I was very used to working with people very one-on-one. And, being part of a brand that was very connected and very values aligned. And all of a sudden you're working with people who don't know you.
True.
And they haven't had an opportunity to be part of that hospitality environment that you create. And so it was a really interesting experiment in learning what can actually happen within a virtual community. I mean, we had folks navigating serious addiction, chronic disease, cancer diagnoses. COVID was really...
Virtually.
Yeah, COVID really brought out a lot of hardship and challenge for folks. A lot of people got sick. A lot of people were experiencing tremendous loss. So to be able to show up for a community during such a weird time, the learnings were unimaginable. But the thing that I remember the most was, really seeing our core community, the people who came out of our studios, especially our original studios in Cambridge and London, they kind of became the mentors or the holders of space for the folks who were new. And at one point it was thousands and thousands of people, and you're seeing these folks create these offline conversations, not just on Zoom, but getting to know each other on other platforms, and you're seeing these other, new businesses evolve, new partnerships, new connections. And that was really, really cool to see. But
all from this Litethriive sort of seed, if you will.
Yeah, and at a certain point in time, I really started to miss being together in the world with people in person, and so reopened a much smaller training studio. And the idea was that we would bring back the same spirit of our movement and mindset practices in a zero profit model, where all of the proceeds were ensuring that women who were navigating addiction recovery out of Porchlight in Cambridge, 10 beds for women, and really, I believe, all of Waterloo region for addiction transition living.
Wow.
So we don't have enough, right? So those women were able to come and do movement coaching with us, mindset coaching. We were, providing them with all kinds of resources, clothing, personal care items. We would visit the house regularly, share meals with them. And so our members in that space started to feel like these were their community. These women were their community, and that we were responsible together for creating a healing environment. And after, however many, 30 years of teaching movement and seeing people transform, in so many incredible ways, I think that was one of the most, unforgettable experiences, because it was really not about what I was doing. It was becoming its own thing, and teaching people, I think, a little bit about, addiction isn't about those people. These are people that everyone could relate to, right? And once you understand somebody's story, how do we become addicted to fentanyl? Yeah. Learning that this woman was the librarian around the corner, or that this person has 3 kids that she's lost, but she was a corporate person just like everybody else. And so all of a sudden that common ground becomes a game changer in our members' lives, where they start looking on the street a little differently and saying, wait a minute, this is actually about me. This is for me.
Do you receive through those programs, do family members or friends then reach out to you, sort of explaining to you the benefits or the positive change that they've seen among the people they know? Or is it something that's almost a little bit more quietly kept?
It is, and I think that oftentimes folks who are in that stage of addiction recovery, which is still really in the acute stage, so oftentimes women who are in those homes, or men, and they have a men's home as well, they're coming right out of a 30-day program. And oftentimes you've lost your people by that point, right? When addiction is that severe, you may have lost your kids. You may no longer see your partner. You've probably lost your housing. And oftentimes your family and extended family don't want anything more to do with you. And so that sense of isolation was, the medicine of community. Yes. For those women. It was profound just to see how readily they accepted the love.
That's okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you seen this, I guess, it's not a model. Well, you're building a model, if you will. I guess the model keeps changing as we go. Have you seen this model elsewhere, or where would you like to see this progress? Or I guess with the absence of fear and or finances, how big can this go, or how great can this expand?
Oh my goodness. Friends of mine started an organization around 20 years ago called New Leaf Foundation, and that I was part of for many years. And that's an organization that, dissolved during, post-pandemic. So a lot of smaller nonprofits didn't make it. But at Nutrition for Learning, we've actually taken the New Leaf training methodologies. And so New Leaf's mandate essentially was to bring mindfulness programs to youth experiencing any type of risk, oppression, challenges in the community. And for years, it started off with, it was a yoga program in Regent Park.
Sure.
And, it evolved in so many different ways. And I think, through a couple of decades of work in this type of space, the instant shift that, grounding connection, movement in community makes for any one of us, let alone folks who are feeling isolated. It's profound. And so I think about this with Nutrition for Learning, actually, because I'm not really interested in just being a school day, bunch of calories.
Sure.
That's important, but it's like nourishment versus food, right? Like, it's one thing, like, if you're hungry and I'm like, okay, go sit over there and eat, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if I say, come over here, I have this hot thing and I'm going to share it with you and tell me about your day.
Yes.
Well, that's nourishment.
That's true.
Right? And so, we're trying to bring those same strategies into our approach with school food. It has to be about collaboration. It has to be about inclusion. Understanding what kids are missing, because they're not just missing food. If they don't have the nourishment they need, they're probably not trying out for the basketball team.
True.
And they're not staying after school for art club because they're too hungry and they're not in the mood.
Yes.
And they're not making friends because they don't have their basic needs met. So I think that, that intentional, mindful connection, the model needs to be everywhere. It needs to be in our offices. It needs to be in our schools. It needs to be everywhere. We need it.
And is that, so for a model to change for Nutrition for Learning, can that be done on a regional level first, or is there things that need to be done on greater Canadian level first before you can truly affect change?
Well, now you're speaking to the entrepreneur in me.
Well, I'm just saying, or you can just do it.
Yeah. I mean, we're just doing it here, I think, regionally. And that's, Nutrition for Learning is a regional organization, but we're partnered with the province. And we're also really active in the provincial and national advocacy space. And we're finding those values-aligned partners and building space for these conversations. And I think that post-pandemic, we all understand that kids had their social development fractured, and that, to me, since the beginning of time, food is what brings us together.
Right.
So we have an opportunity collectively, I think, to change the future for young people through food. And we should do that.
And so the whole sort of food scarcity idea, and it's, and I guess it's also the judgment portion of it. What's the way around that, or what's the education piece that's missing in that regard?
I mean, I think that Canada is finally shifting in the right direction, because to me, food insecurity as a conversation in the school space, it needs to be shifted to an equity conversation, because it's really not a poverty story, right? There's a million different reasons why young people might not have the food that they need. And so, we look all around the world. Most countries have school food, and it's beautiful. It's a breakfast, it's a hot lunch, it's served in community. There's no phones, we eat together. And Canada's just been really behind in this space, and that's shifted with the National School Food Policy and a different view for Canada. It's going to take time for that to roll out. But I think that as Canadians, we have to actually really embrace that and start pushing for it on our own as well, and really asking our schools, what can be done for a really equitable lunch for all these kids, because that is what our kids deserve, right? They should be eating together. They should be learning about food and food sources in their school. So we're working really, really hard to change that, obviously with limited resources, but we're making quite a bit of headway.
In that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so with this, and you're in this space, and I'm probably going to come back to Nutrition for Learning over and over and over again. You must be aware of other programs that are starting up regionally. This is called People Around Town. So, not that I don't care what's going on in St. Catharines, but this is to find out what makes successful people tick, and you definitely tick. Many boxes, the whole bed. What other programs, not even food related, have you heard about recently in the region that if you could multiply yourself, right? What other programs that people might not know of exist that excite you?
Oh my goodness.
And I don't. And if Erin forgets to mention you, no big deal. Reach out and I'll get you on the podcast. Okay.
Well, I have to right off the hop mention Food for Kids because we're always asked, what is the difference between Nutrition for Learning and Food for Kids? And the difference is that we provide nourishment during the school day, and Food for Kids, which was actually founded a number of years ago by one of Nutrition for Learning's former executive directors.
Oh, okay.
Provides nourishment food hampers for primary school aged kids on weekends and during school breaks, so winter break, March break, summer holidays. And so we're all needed, right? We're trying to holistically support youth, and it's been really cool to see Food for Kids growing and scaling their operation up over the last year. They just moved around the corner from us and are a great neighbor. I was just meeting this morning with the incredible CEO at Adventure for Change, and I think, they're providing incredible recreation, community building opportunities for youth in Waterloo, and many of those youth are new Canadians, and it also extends to their families. I think trying to figure out how we can weave families back into the community conversation, because we can't just take care of kids in a vacuum, right? It means also.
And when they stop being kids, it's all lost.
Yeah. So we also need to connect with families and understand, what do they need from us? How can we, best holistically support the next generation? Truly, there's just so many unbelievable organizations. I think Grand River Pride is really exciting to me, because when you think about, the region having a safe space, a safe home or representation for youth who are looking to be part of that Pride community and don't see themselves represented or being advocated for.
I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, phenomenal. Founded by two really good friends of mine, Brian and Eric. Really, really beautiful to see them, leveraging community and music and gathering opportunities, again, just to create safety.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So many things I can do. This is kind of when giving season starts. So this is when the mailbox starts filling up with give to this, give to this, and give to this, and give to this. Well, you've given me a ton of your time right now and a ton of insight into both the non-for-profit space, the profit space, and also the insight to what makes a successful person tick. I would love to donate $500 to Nutrition for Learning, if that's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
We will let you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And not to say that the other ones don't, but also $250 to Food for Kids.
Oh. I love that.
Fair enough. Just because
Thank you.
It's so important.
I love that.
And also hit me up for, you guys still have the Nutrition for Learning Gala?
We've changed things up, so we'll be hitting you up for something different.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Last time Sid Vanderpool was on here, and he hit me up for a table just this week, so that's fine. I'm in.
Oh, goodness.
I am honored by your time.
Thank you.
I am inspired by your drive.
Thank you.
And guys, anything we can do to help great people in our community push this community forward. It's not like we give and it's not an investment. This is our community, right? Either we invest in them and help them grow themselves. Otherwise, we're just throwing pennies in a pond, right?
It takes a village. It takes all of us.
Guys, this is Erin. I am Erin Moraghan, the one and only.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. This is the first lady that's been on on the podcast. I didn't think it would actually shouldn't matter, but it did. But hey, if we're going to start, we started off with a bang.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. I
Thanks.
appreciate you and then some.